Hello, everybody in Gramophone land. I'm Joe with Gramophone. And boy, are we excited tonight because we've got one of my favorite topics, which is high resolution audio. But this is high resolution audio with a difference because it's easy to use. Today we're here with David Solomon from Qobuz. David, how you doing?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being us. As I was just kind of thinking about, had a few minutes to think before we're starting out here. If you think about it, really high res audio, which you've been championing for, I want to say at least since the late 90s. And quick disclaimer for everybody in the audience, David and I have known each other since 1986 and been friends ever since. But for a long time now, you've been championing high resolution streaming, and it's kind of a one of those things that has rarely been seen in audio, where such a big sea change in convenience and how to have almost any kind of content that you could want easily, and at the same time really sounding great. How many other times in your and my time in audio has there been such an important change? I mean, compact disc in the early 80s was obviously a big change because it was more convenient. You could carry it around. You could put it in your car audio, setup. Wasn't degrading every single time you played the record, because we've all had that, Led Zeppelin record or whatever we played 42 times and now it's not worth anything. But really, I'm not sure when was the last time, perhaps since CD, that we've seen such an important change. And here it is. Yeah. So, any comments you have about that? Happy to hear them.
Yeah, we're in a time period that we all dreamed about when we were kids, when we were all, kind of sitting around the radio, with our recorder in our hands, waiting for the disc jockey to stop talking so we could hit play and record. I mean, we have been doing this a really long time, and been waiting for, a way to get quality music for a long time. We ended up, thanks to, really Apple for the marketing efforts, but we all ended up with, thousands and thousands of songs, on our iPod or on our hard drive years ago. But even most of that, honestly, was very low resolution stuff.
Yes.
So years ago, I would, when I kind of figured out that it's really cool to be able to stream from one room to a next, forget, streaming off the cloud, just figuring out what are the processes you need to follow to actually have a really good sounding system that you could stream room to room at least. And I don't know, I was going around for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years prior to the first, maybe a little more than that, about 7 years prior to the first lossless streaming service coming here. I was going around from place to place and showing people how to rip their CD collection, right? That was like prized stuff back then, because most of the CDs that they had, if they ripped them and they just sort of automatically did, it was almost always an MP3. So you had to do a little few tricks. But, once you got the tricks down and, sort of had the process figured out, you could get your whole collection on a hard drive and be able to stream it around, which sounded a boatload better than, what was being streamed at that particular point. And streaming really started becoming irrelevant, I would say, when you could start getting streams of up to 320 kilobits per second.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, it started sounding pretty good then. That's about what Spotify is on right now. And you could listen to this music and go, cool, that sounds pretty good. It doesn't make me choke, and I can listen to it, right? It might not be the highest resolution, but wow, there's possibilities here. And
Yeah.
really, about as soon as I realized that there were possibilities here, because it had gone up, the streaming had gone from XM, which was like 64 kilobits per second, to
Terrible.
128, and then 192 kilobits per second. It finally made it up to 320, and you're going, wow, this sounds, a good bit better than the stuff that Apple was selling, because most of their stuff was 192 or 256 kilobits per second. At that point, they weren't selling 320. So when 320 came around with a company called Mog, I'm going, this is going to change the world.
Yeah.
And so since I'd seen it gone from 64 to 320 kilobits per second, which sounded amazingly different and amazingly much better, it just stood to reason at some point this is going to go to 1644.
Well, and let's pick that up in just a moment, but we've already got several comments that have come in, David. So first off, Rick Murphy, my old friend that I worked with back in Chicago
Rick.
20 or so years ago. Rick is saying, my two of my favorite people in the industry. Thank you for the kind words, Rick.
Rick.
And I hope you're doing great. And then another, I can't quite see this, but we've got a question about how is high-res music from Qobuz selected? So the question really, I guess, is how do you pick what you're going to do next in high-res? What's your process, if you will?
We don't.
Okay.
We were basically signed on with all of the distributors, with all of the labels, and every Friday we get a gift. Every Friday, it's like your birthday, right? I get hundreds and hundreds and sometimes thousands of brand new songs. A lot of times they're in 1644, at least. That's the lowest that we use. But
just so everybody knows, 1644 is CD quality. So the worst that you offer on Qobuz is already CD quality, and it only gets better from there.
Yeah. So I mean, really, CD is very good. CD quality is very good. Can it get better? Sure, it can. With high resolution, and we go up to 24/192.
Yes.
And most of the time, honestly, that's I don't want to say most of the time. I'll say a good portion of the time, the 24/192 stuff or the 2496 or 2448, if it was recorded a long time ago, sometimes that stuff sounds a whole lot better. Sometimes it's just a marketing thing, and sometimes maybe the 1644 will sound better, or the 2448 may sound better than the 2496. We don't really want to get hung up on numbers, although we've got cool numbers if we did want to get hung up on them. What we really want to get hung up on is just we've all now got music that's available to us that's in really studio quality. And it's really the first time that this has been available in our lifetimes. There's a few services that are doing the same basic thing that we're doing, just maybe not to the degree that we're doing it.
And conveniently, the ability to have the convenience that the customer wants with great sound quality. I mean, that's really what Qobuz is all about, because doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. Now it's, probably 20 years or more, but, guys like me were basically telling people, no, you don't want to stream. It's not going to sound good, because
Me too.
back then it didn't. And the fact that people can have the convenience that they really want and really enjoy and have it sound great on even a fairly modestly priced system, or sound great on a really highly resolving system, the kind of thing that Gramophone can also sell. You've got the best of both worlds coming together, and it's awesome. We have a couple more questions too. So just a quick comment by, it looks like Rugby says LMS with a Logitech transporter in the mid 2000s. So that's good.
That was fantastic. That was state of the art at that point.
You bet, man. But then Rugby's also saying there are albums available at HD Tracks and Pro Studio Masters, which are not on Qobuz. And why does this happen? So
yeah, we possibly don't have the rights to it for whatever reason. But we also have a download store. In fact, we're the only streaming service with a download store that you can download full and high res. But yeah, I don't know. But we do have ways that you can request music. I'll give this. I should have had this with me, but I don't. We're not producing the show, but we've got a link that we can share where if something's not available, sometimes it's just overlooked. You can request it, and then we actually have human beings that look into that, and we'll be glad to do it. In fact, if you'll put it up on the screen, whichever ones you're looking for, heck, I'll look for it after the show, or actually probably tomorrow. But yeah, it's a pretty easy process.
Yeah, so Rugby, just send us another note if you have some specific albums that you're really interested in. But But I will say, David, that you guys do have very good customer service and you're responsive when people reach out to contact you. So that's great stuff. Yeah. And maybe one other quick thing. Yeah, I know you've got a presentation that you can get started with, David, but you and I were, as we were doing our little prep for this show and making sure that the technical things were kind of resolved and all that, we just started talking about Dixie Dregs. And what's really driving the topic of this evening, being able to get high quality, high resolution music and do it easily with streaming, what it's really driven by is our shared love for music. And whether somebody loves the Dixie Dregs, which is an incredibly eclectic jazz, rock, country, classical, Celtic kind of a mix, or whether somebody loves pounding rock and roll or country music or whatever it is, it's this is the thing that really ties all of us together, right? Is that love for the music.
Yeah, yeah, and that and the ability to make this thing look like what you want to make it look like. Like if I'm the biggest hip hop fan in the world, which I'm not necessarily, but if I'm a
Yeah.
huge hip hop fan and I run Qobuz,
Yep.
maybe I want it to look like hip hop, but I don't want it to look like that for all my customers. Or maybe I'm into rock and roll, maybe, but I don't want that to look like that for all customers. We want to really make sure that Qobuz looks like you. It
Yes.
makes it look like the record shop you want to be in, not the record shop that is no relevance to you at all.
Yep. Uh, Mike is asking how do users of Qobuz select music they want and have listened to?
Uh, we can go into that really when I show you how the program
Okay.
works.
Yep. Well, then
But
if you
yeah,
like,
we've got lots and lots of ways to discover music and
yeah.
find the music that you've had.
Yeah. Well, so if you want to just start up your presentation, David, and we'll just kind of roll with this thing. And
Yeah, yeah, and I put this whole thing together because Joe said, "Oh yeah, we kind of need a presentation." I'm going, "Yeah, no problem. I'll throw something together." So I did that. I'm usually a conversation guy, so if at any
okay.
point stop me and go, no, you're talking too much. You're taking in too much information, or if somebody's got a question that's relevant that pertains to any of this stuff, please, make sure I'll stop if I can.
Okay.
So we'll just go into some basics here, and I just got to make sure that I can get this over
Well,
here.
well, while you're doing that, David, let me quickly interject that Rugby sent us. There's two that he wants. One is the latest U2 release, which is live at Red Rocks. But he's also talking about one of my all-time favorite albums, which is Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. If you like loud rock and roll, that record is a must-have. I had no idea that there's an 8 CD version, he says. So thank you, Rugby, for making my day by bringing up Live and Dangerous. Because let's be honest, it's a little bit obscure. Not everybody digs that record. That's one of my 10 go to the desert island that doesn't have any electricity anyways. CDs, by the way. All right, David, back to Qobuz and high res streaming.
Okay, well, I'm back to my full screen, so I can't really see you. So just stop
Oh,
me
okay.
anytime you want. But
Oh,
we were
yeah.
actually we were actually established in 2007, which makes us the very first uh, lossless streaming service in existence. We're independently owned, so that may have been why you didn't hear of Qobuz, because they've been growing, really slow and steadily since then. We've now got over 100 million tracks. It used to be it used to be really easy to fool us. You could pick out a lot of people that weren't there. These days, we've got 100 million tracks. Tidal's got 100 million tracks. Apple's got 100 million tracks. Amazon's. The basic point is most everybody is just catching up with each other. We do have a bit of an advantage on classical, though, because since we had about a 7-year start on anyone else with lossless, we were really primarily started as a classical music company. We've got a lot of eclectic classical that you literally just can't find anywhere else. Now, I'm super proud of this. It might not look, that impressive to just the normal person, but we're now in 26 countries. When I started in 2018, we were in 5.
Wow.
This really, really should show that we've been working very, very hard because we are the only independently owned streaming service. We're the only ones not owned by a like a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate.
Yep.
So the what makes Qobuz special, really number one, is sound quality. We've got lossless music by the drove, so much that you'll never be able to listen to everything that's on Qobuz. And a really good portion of it is in high res. In fact, if you were just to listen to the amount of high res on there, in most people's lifetime, you'd never be able to get through it. Our apps make us pretty special. They just work really well, and we have people working on them every single day. The dedicated staff is incredible with just keeping up with things. So let's see, label search. We've got we're music lovers, so it's important to us that we can search in ways that real music lovers would search. So if you go onto any of the other services, if you wanted to search out Deutsche Gramophone or Act or any of the other actual labels and just go, what does this label have for me? You'll see all of the apps that they've got available for you.
Okay. David, I want to jump in real quick with a
Yeah.
question. Mike from Glennig, I think it's Glennig, says you can compare different recordings of Dark Side of the Moon. And yeah, so I don't know if you have any particular favorites among the various ones that you have on Qobuz.
Yeah, I was just doing the Yes album night before last. There's 4 copies of it. The latest one's, I believe it's the latest one, is just remarkable.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different recordings of the same thing there that you can pick and choose your own, or sometimes you have your favorite. Like there's 2 versions of Genesis Trick of the Tail on there. I don't like the remastered version. I like the original version, so I'm just really happy that it's still there. But yeah, like I say, we're music lovers, so we try to act like we're music lovers.
Well, A Trick of the Tail is another one of my absolute favorite records. And so glad to hear that there's versions that are different enough that you can tell which one you like better. That's awesome. And one thing we should say real quickly too, David, is you were generous enough to offer a free subscription, a 1-year subscription that we're going to give away later in the program. So stick around, everybody, because this is obviously some good conversation we got going here, but there is also a giveaway possibility for you.
Yeah, and stop me anytime because my golly, I'll get wound up and I'll just keep going. So
I love it when you're wound up, David. Do it, man.
okay, so we just talked about a little while ago. We've got a lossless download store. We're really big artist advocates. When you buy, and nobody makes anything on streaming. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not a high-paying thing. But it's important to us that artists do get paid well. So we do maintain a fully lossless and high-res download store. When you find your favorite artists, especially the new ones, buy an album from them. I always tell people, when you go to a concert, don't just go to the concert, get the t-shirt, right? Or buy an album or get some kind of tchotchke from them. But it's really up to us to really all chip in and help musicians out when we can and be our own advocate for musicians. So we're Rune supported. We're one of 2 companies that are Rune supported. If you don't know what Rune is, it's the best. It's just the very best music management system that you can possibly dream of. I'll tell it to you like this. It's super easy to manage 1,000 songs. It's super easy to manage 1,000 albums. It's not super easy to manage, nor will you be able to manage 100 million songs. There's just no way. It's so much. It's like drinking from the hydrant. You really need a way or some kind of tool that will help put that into a bit of a workable solution for you.
Yeah.
And Rune really does that. Plus, it helps control any product that's throughout your house, just about no matter what the name brand is.
Mhm.
Qobuz Club. We just opened the Qobuz Club. These are things that make Qobuz different. And while all of the other services may be having AI out the wazoo, we don't want AI out the wazoo. We want humans out the wazoo. Humans that love music. So we started a Qobuz Club. In fact, if you just Google Qobuz Club, you'll come right up on it. and it is a social site, but different than any other social site. Like I maintain a social site on Facebook called Streaming Music Matters,
Mhm.
and I've had this for about 5 years now. Well, when I started Qobuz, so maybe 6 years. And the whole thing was like, let's get a bunch of people together that love music, that can relate with each other, that can share music. And so I started this thing, and it is. We got tons of people. About I think it's up to almost 10,000 people now. But we got a whole bunch of people sharing music that absolutely is close and near and dear to their heart. But the problem with it is when you want to go back, like somebody will say, "Oh, here's a great blues album," and I'll listen to it and go, "Oh my God, that's incredible." 3 weeks later, I try to find it. It's impossible because there's 500 more posts, right? On the Qobuz Club, there are actually genre areas. So if you go and put your favorite blues album in the blues area, you're pretty much going to be able to find it anytime, or anybody else that puts anything under blues. If you're like me and not the biggest classical buff in the world, we got thousands and thousands of these guys on the Qobuz Club. Join it. It's a music lovers club, and it's all about the music, nothing else. Oh, and they also do boys.
David, if you don't mind me interjecting real quickly, we've got a couple more questions.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, hit me.
One that came in looks like from Maddie, I think. I love Qobuz and it's high resolution. The biggest reason I chose Qobuz is its curated content and suggestions. I discover new music every day. I love hearing that. When should we expect Qobuz Connect?
Wow, that's just in fact, you were right in front of me. We're working on Qobuz Connect, and actually we've got it in early beta right now.
Beta.
We're expecting this to be rolling out first quarter of next year. We're in contact with all of the manufacturers now, and everything is rolling in. I don't think we've got a single manufacturer that doesn't want it, and we got more manufacturers than we could shake a stick at that are beating our door down. So yeah, thanks very much for the question. That should be here anytime now.
Very good. Thank you, because that is one that I've been asked before myself,
For
actually.
those that don't know what Qobuz Connect is, I guess I should explain that.
Yeah.
That's so that the app that you've got, there's the Qobuz app. You'll be able to go up to any piece of gear that you've got, and you'll be able to choose your song, hit play, and choose the piece of gear that it's on, and hit cast, and it'll cast out, and it's full resolution. So unlike Chromecast or some of those things that top out at 2496, you'll be able to get full 24 192 out of this.
That'll be awesome. So I'm glad you're working on that. That's tremendous, and I'm glad I don't want to say just around the corner, but in the near future. That's wonderful.
Yeah, in streaming terms, it is literally right around the corner.
And we already, CJ, just kind of one comment. Great. And Mike from Glennig, who we spoke to earlier, Glennig, Maryland, can users select which quality of an album that he or she will watch in the future?
Yeah, you can. The only reason that I would say ever downgrade it, like making it, like everything that comes through 1644 or even 320, like you can take it all the way down to Spotify level. The only time you would want to do that is when your internet service is super bad, or B, you've got a cellular plan that doesn't have very much data involved in it. And then I would absolutely take that down to 320, or at the very highest 1644. Or you're in the mountains and you're in its terrible service. You take it down to 320, you could still at least listen if you've got any signal at all. So yeah, you can. That's a really good question.
And a quick comment from one of our fellow employees here, one of the guys that's actually helping produce this show this evening. When we started talking about this and high resolution streaming, he got interested. And then when he saw the pricing, he said, "Man, you can do this for the same amount I'm paying for Spotify. Like, who
Yeah,
wouldn't do
yeah.
that?"
It was all I could do not to say that a little while ago, but it's in my presentation, so
Okay.
I've got a
Um,
horrible echo.
you can you can keep going.
Okay. Yeah, industry support. We very much support the audio industry. And as of just a few days ago, it looks like we are the only high end and high resolution music service that is supporting the industry. We the most important people in around high resolution audio is the audio industry, and it is the engineering community. So we want to stay very, very close and support both communities, which we continue to do. We're at all the shows. We support all of the all of the manufacturers, all of the retailers in any way we can. Some of that, you'll see it a little bit, is actually on Qobuz. So we don't just say we support them. We're out there. We love this business, and we've got such incredible pricing. You're going to love what you're going to be able to get this stuff for. Because when we started, it was like $30 a month.
Right. So, now hold on a second, because Mike, Rugby, who has commented before, said actually, because he's on Sublime plan, which you've told me about before, if you purchase enough high-res music with Sublime, it pays for itself.
Absolutely. Maybe in 2 albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, you save a lot if you like to download lossless or high res. Well, first off, we've got the best prices, period. So if you've been using other services, you got to check out Qobuz prices, because we're usually the very best. And then if you're a Sublime member, you end up with sometimes 40-50% under that. So it's really crazy pricing on this if you're a downloader, and we encourage you to be.
Okay.
We're lossless to high res, 1644 to 192. We're in FLAC. It's just basically a single fold. So when you play it back, it just plays exactly the same ones and zeros as the full version has. There's zero degradation or loss. We don't have any special proprietary any kind of technology that you would need anything special. You can pretty much use your phone and get up to 2496. And if you've got a really cool Android, sometimes up to 24192, but unaltered anyway. The high-res logo that you see at the top, we're super proud of that. We're the only streaming service in the world that has been awarded this high-res badge by the Japanese Audiophile Society. And they do not do this lightly. So we are, very, very happy to have this. And we'll be going into Japan soon. So that even makes it better.
And David, if you don't mind, just describe a little bit for our listeners, because in case somebody is wondering, okay, well, if I put in a CD, it sounds good, and that's 1644. You're talking about going to 24-bit 192K. What would be some of the differences that as you're listening, David, you notice, what are some of the sonic things that you might describe a little bit about what some
Let's talk physical and sonic. Physical, if you pack that much audio information onto a disc, it's going to look like, it'll look like a laser disc. You couldn't get that much information on a disc. And then the possibility of what it can sound like is just much better. I'll give you a couple of thoughts on that, right?
Yep.
If you've got the very, very best recording in 1644, you've got an engineer that was absolutely gifted.
Yeah.
And there are some out there that you go, oh my God, I cannot believe this is in 1644. Most of the time that doesn't happen. You listen to something in 1644 and you're going, okay, it sounds fine. When things are transferred, there's 2 reasons they're transferred. Let's say something from the early 60s, late 50s, a jazz piece. It gets transferred from 1644 to 24192 because they can actually take the music off of the original disc and record it now. Instead of having it compressed, they can have it full on. Everything that was on the disc gets on there. That's the case with an album, one of my favorite albums, my favorite albums that I bought before I started with Qobuz, which is Illinois Jacket. It's called The Swing of Things. Yeah, I think it's called The Swing of Things. It was recorded in 56, released in 57. There's a 1644 version on Qobuz, and it sounds fine. All the notes are there. But you listen to the 24192 version, and it's like something happens. They inject the emotion. High resolution, nothing is big in high resolution. Everything is tiny, tiny, tiny little details. But you put millions and millions of those tiny details together, and then all of a sudden it starts being something. And then there's other albums like, I don't know if you ever see a Edgar Winter album remastered, it's probably going to be because the record label wanted money. That stuff really wasn't recorded very well to begin with, and it's probably not going to sound great in 192. So you kind of got to know who you're dealing with. Some releases are masterful, some are for marketing, and you'll be able to tell which ones are which as soon as you listen to it. The good thing is you got 100 million tracks to kind of go bounce it back and forth in. This is something you've never had before.
And Mike from Glendick is running again. He's just asking, and I appreciate, by the way, you've been so flexible with answering these questions, David. He's asking any tools to guide users on how best to set up their home or mobile systems. And that might be kind of beyond the scope of our conversation tonight, but anything that you can suggest, David.
Yeah, here's what I suggest. I suggest knowing somebody like Joe. Knowing somebody like the guys at Gramophone are great, and there's really honestly lots of places around the United States where people do understand how you do this the right way. But I would just, if you're just want to stick your toe in the water, you're just sticking your toe in the water, talk to these guys, because it's not just about a box, right? There's an infrastructure that has to run this box. It's called the internet. You want to make sure that this stuff is like really up to speed, because frankly, it's harder to stream high resolution audio than it is video. And I'll just give you a real brief on that. The reason that is because at least our high resolution audio is non-adaptive. So we're not going to bow to the lowest internet signal. If the internet signal can't handle what we're sending, we're not going to take that 24.192 signal and chop it down. We're not going to truncate it for you. What we'll do is we'll keep playing it at 24.192. If your internet can only handle this, then it's going to be going cheep, 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 or it won't play, or say it's unavailable or something like that, right? So you want to talk to these pros because they can guide you in the mesh networks that would be good enough, that's still wireless, or maybe you want to hardwire this thing. So on tweaking and getting this thing started off to begin with, my best suggestion is talk to these guys. They won't lead you the wrong way.
And in my not quite a year now here at Gramophone, I've been super impressed by, I mean, I knew these guys before because I'd been calling on them, in sales previously, but yeah, there's a lot of very knowledgeable guys in our store who love to help customers. A couple more quick comments here. CJ is now saying, David made some great track recommendations at Capital Audio Fest. Carla Bley, Life Goes On.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And Supertramp, Crime of the Century in 24.192. So that was from Rugby. Yeah. So, but I think really one of the things that's cool too about Qobuz is you start to kind of feel like you're a member of a club of people who love this kind of stuff and want to share it with you, even though they don't know you necessarily, right?
Yeah, well, that is kind of the club, right? That's what we were going for with the club. There's so many good recommendations on there.
Yeah. All right, back over to you, my friend.
Yeah, and I'm kind of messing this whole presentation up. I apologize. I did want to show you guys, though, a couple things on the app. When you first go to the front page, this is what you're looking at. You choose your genres. So you make this thing look like anything you want to make it look like. If you hit just hip hop, it's going to look like Tidal. If you hit just classical, it'll look like Adagio. Or if you're like me, I leave it on everything and just see what Qobuz has to bring. But all your searches will be based on what your genre selections are.
Kay says Qobuz is where the cool kids hang out. David, you can't say that, but I'm glad that a listener did.
Let's see, this is the label search I was telling you about. You can just go up into the app and hit label and come up with anything you want. I came up with ACT because it's such a cool label. We haven't had them that long, but it's like every single thing on their label is just like way cool. And then of course we were talking about you can do the genre search. I'm going to go through this really quick because we've already talked about it. We advocate buying buying artists material, and you can get it on Qobuz really inexpensively. Like this is when this first came out, but when the Harvest first came out, it was at 24,192. Any human could buy it. That was if you breathed, you could hit Qobuz.com. You could buy it for $20. But if you're a Sublime member, and this is what your friend was talking about, you buy that album, that same album in 24,192 for $11, which is kind of crazy.
Yep.
And you can now, we just did this, and we think this is going to mean a huge amount to the artist. You can now buy straight off the app.
And just to clarify one thing that probably most of our listeners have already gotten, but just to actually say it, if you were to stop your Qobuz subscription, all the product that you have downloaded, that all stays with you. That's once you've purchased it, it's yours forever, even if you, for whatever reason, we're not to continue with it.
Yeah, there's two ways to download. There's offlining. So if you're going on a trip, I've got like 500, 600 albums on my iPhone.
Okay.
You don't own those. So if you cancel your subscription, then those will just disappear. But although what we're talking about here, the download store, anything you buy, that's yours. You do anything you want with it. That's never taken back. It's yours.
Right. Now, Paul has asked, are they going to put out Dolby Atmos?
Yeah, probably at some point because we're already supposed to have it. But I got to tell you, it's not a huge priority for us. We've got so many things that are huge priorities for us. So we'll let the other guys do Dolby for right now. And we'll probably add it at some point in the future, but it's not like first on the radar by any chance.
Right. There's other things you want to do first. And Rugby is saying, can you explain Qobuz coins?
Qobuz coins are like gift certificates that you can buy and give to your friends or your family, and then they can buy music with the Qobuz coins, which is, once again, we really want people to buy music because everybody wins then. Yeah. And we get more and more articles that say, oh, Qobuz pays their artists more. Well, we do maybe a tiny bit more in streaming, but really the income is going to come from the record sold.
Right. Paul is saying, I must say I love the clean layout of Qobuz.
Thank you. Yeah, these guys really work hard to keep it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we got magazine and editorial. We've got a huge staff of magazine and editorial because we don't want to be AI. Sujan Hong, who is here, is our head of music, and she just does a fantastic job. These guys work nonstop. They not only write everything and almost about so many albums, but every playlist that you see, that's what these guys. This is our music team putting these playlists together. So if it's a Christmas playlist, we don't go chat GP play, put me together a 40 playlists and we want it to be this or that. We go, oh, this one touched my soul. This one's going to be in here. Oh, I love this one. Oh, this one made my kid cry. Well, that's got to go in there. That's the kind of playlist that you see. They're from the love of music.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. And Richard now is asking, I'm confused about where Roon fits with all this. And really, I think the general answer, Richard, is Roon just helps you organize everything so that you can find it more easily. But David, if you want to, expound on that at all.
Yeah. Roon really, when it's just an operating system. So right. You could either use the operating system on Qobuz to just play Qobuz on your phone. Roon will give you the opportunity to use Qobuz anywhere in your house, no matter what kind of a connection you've got. I think they work on almost anything. Like if you got a Sonos in one room and an Auralic in another room. Like myself, next to me, I've got a DCS. Right over on my drums, I've got a Node, Blue Sound Node.
Yep.
Downstairs, I've got a hi-fi Rose. In my kitchen, I've got just a Pi computer hooked up to a little DAC. So it's all different things. In my bedroom, I've got a Yamaha. In the other room, we've got a Bowers and Wilkins. All of this stuff hooks up to Roon so that it connects, and it's operated from that one system, which makes it like super, super convenient. Because if you've got 4 or 5 different systems and you didn't have that in one room, you're going, okay, let me pull up my Sonos app. You go into the next room. Oh, let me pull up my Blue Sound app. Next room. Let me pull up my this or that or the other. And it just gets crazy. So Roon helps put that into a nice package just from an operational standpoint. From a music standpoint, their editorial is off the scale, and their music discovery is off the scale. So to me, it's like a component. It's not cheap. It's like, I think it's $800-900 just to have the software service if you want a lifetime. So I just look at it like a component. You do not need it to make things work. It just makes your life easier and better.
We did have a quick comment from Paul saying what's great about Qobuz is, for example, even Apple Music that I do use, there's so much rubbish you have to put to one side. Maybe it's a bit better now with Apple Classic. So, basically saying that it's easy to use Qobuz compared to some of the other services that are out there.
Yeah, these guys offer different things than we do because different things are important to them. Like Spotify, they're like thick into podcasts. We do not care one way or the other about Joe Rogan. I just don't care. I'd never want to have that conversation. What you find is just music related stuff. It's all we are. It's all we want to be.
Yeah.
So that's what you can expect from us. But thanks for saying that.
You guys, in my mind, are a music company first and an audio company second.
We like to think of ourselves as your local record shop that you used to go spend a lot of time in, kind of browsing through albums. And it was a really cool record shop because it was that one guy that would go, hey, you want to listen to this in our booth? And you go, yeah, do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Paul says, yes, jazz is great on Qobuz.
Yeah, we have got thick jazz. Yeah, do that. Well, we were just going to talk about this. Like I say, I'm horrible at the presentations, but let's have a conversation
You're doing good on the presentations. You're doing great.
Well, we do Roon. It's this little company that, and we already talked about audio industry support. One of the things that we do, and one of my favorite places to find really cool music, this is a PSA, by the way, is our industry playlists. And you'll find those on the front page of Qobuz. If you'll just go down a little bit and look under Qobuz playlists, you'll see hi-fi partners. And go in there, and you're going to see some playlists that will change the way you listen. You will go down so many rabbit holes because there's so much great music on it. But these are all the manufacturers, JBL, ELAC, Auralic, Render, Odyssey. I mean, everybody's on there. I mean, all the cool guys are really on there. You talk about the cool kids table, this is it. This is where you should go to find some really, really fun music. And we're going to be having a Gramophone playlist up there pretty soon, right, Joe?
I was actually just working on it this afternoon. We've got a bunch of tracks that the guys have suggested to us, and so yeah, it's coming together quickly. Here's Paul is saying, I'm a music photographer. I use the app to refresh what I'm about to photograph, which is cool. And, David, I wanted to throw out another, just to me, this, when we talk about the quality of the sound with Qobuz, an old friend of mine, the kind of guy who 30 years ago, seriously into audio, 30 years ago had a big Oracle turntable, and over the years has had a succession of really high-end tables. I mean, not inexpensive ones, because he loves really great music so much. Not too long ago, I was talking to him about streaming. And I said, well, tell me, what percentage would you say nowadays of your music consumption is streaming versus records? And he said 100%. And I was confused because I thought maybe he didn't understand what I asked him. And I said, well, no, how much of your consumption is records versus streaming? And he said, I got rid of all my record players and all my records. He said that high-res streaming now with a service like Qobuz is so good that I didn't feel the need for it anymore. And this is a guy who my whole life I've looked at the turntables. He's owned a whole series of turntables that are better than any I've ever owned. And yet, because of what you can do with streaming now, just to kind of reinforce the point that the old days of streaming, due to what you've been pushing here for so many years, David, the old days of streaming are really kind of, you don't have to worry about that. You can get terrific quality when you stream.
Yeah, I mean, I actually still maintain a vinyl collection. I love vinyl. I'll never get rid of it. And we don't, hold it. It's not a competition to us. We go, you like vinyl? Great. Let's do it in the one room you've got vinyl in. Everywhere else, I'm the guy. I'm your buddy.
Qobuz is it, man.
This is just a bunch of pictures of us doing various things throughout the years with Qobuz, but we're out there, and we hope to see you guys at some of the audio events, some of the audio shows. If it's an audio show in America, there's a real good chance I'm going to be there, and even a few internationally. I'll be going to the UK right after our Florida show in February, and then in May, I think I'll be in Munich again. So we're all out there. What were you going to say, Joe? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you love making presentations, which you always have, and you've always been so good at making presentations. But I can just see it in you when you're making presentations that you like that audience interaction.
Oh, thank goodness. All right. Now, last thing, or this, we're kind of winding this whole thing down, but I'll tell you a little bit about the Qobuz Society. Gramophone is actually in the Qobuz Society, and it's a group of retailers and actually manufacturers that support Qobuz. So you could go into any Gramophone store, and they're going to have this really cool playlist that I know they're going to want you all to listen to. So you'll all be able to get a free 60-day trial at any of our Qobuz Society member stores.
So you can just, if you're skeptical about is the quality really that good, you can try it for 60 days, find out for yourself.
And then after that, you're in for like, what is it, $129 a year?
Yep.
1083 if you pay for it by the year per month. So it's gotten so cheap. I still have Spotify because some of my family has it.
Yeah.
And plus, I just want to know what they're doing too. So I've got Spotify and Tidal, and I've got them all so that I could, know what's going on with the competition. But at any rate, I am flipped. We've gone like from 3 times as expensive as Spotify to like $1 more. It's so inexpensive to do high resolution streaming. I can't imagine anyone not doing it these days because it just sounds better. Mm-hmm. Then you can do like if where you're with your partner, if you got 2 of you, you can do it for 15 or $18 a month, depending on how you're doing it. Family up to 6, 18, and then of course the Sublime. The Sublime we only sell yearly, but once again, you get into Sublime, if you're a downloader, just do the Sublime because the savings will really, if you end up doing say 2 albums a month, the savings will pay for the subscription.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
So I keep moving the stupid mouse and it keeps, there we go. Last thing, Joe made me put this in here yesterday. He's going, well, what happens? I mean, people, they've got Amazon Music or Tidal for years and years. They've got YouTube Music. How do you transfer it? It's so easy these days. There's this program called SoundIs, and all you have to do is just sign in to your old account, like you've got Spotify, and then sign into your new account on Qobuz, and SoundIs does all the work for you. It'll take all of your favorites, all of your albums, all of your playlists, put them all together, and then transfer them to Qobuz.
And the reason I wanted to suggest that is, again, because a couple of the guys here were just having this conversation about high-res music and streaming. And, I've got all these playlists, though, that I already am very comfortable with.
Yeah.
Well, hey, don't worry about it. David's got a way that you can easily take all of your playlists and just flip them right over into Qobuz. So I think that SoundIs, to me, that's one of the most important things, David, that you can say in a presentation like this. Because now that people have basically said, okay, I'm in, I'm willing to try this Qobuz thing if it sounds that great. It's really not any more expensive than these other services. But that convenience factor of just being able to take all the playlists you've already made and now they're in Qobuz, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, in fact, I'll never leave that out of a presentation again
Mhm.
because it is so easy. I started doing it one by one. I just looked down at the time. I cannot believe how long have we been going? Like an hour and 20 minutes?
No, we've been going for 50 minutes. We
Oh,
still have
good, good.
not
I
we
was
have
thinking,
9 minutes
I'm
left.
thinking, I was thinking that oh my God, this is like, I think I might be in a different paradigm than everybody else since an hour and 20 minutes has passed. Good. So, any questions or any comments or insults, I'll be happy to take any of those.
Well, I've got one that's again not an insult at all, but it's a when I first started selling audio, and of course I was there I was 8 9 years old listening to the Beatles, and like my world exploded, and then the next thing I know, I'm discovering all kinds of music because radio stations were so eclectic back then. But that's the first thing I want to mention is that there's really an analogy between becoming a Qobuz listener and participating in the Qobuz world and absorbing music that you wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. But the second thing is, as I started helping friends of mine to buy stereo equipment, and then one day realized, hey, I can do this for a living. And I started, I play music for people in the store, and then they buy some stuff, and somebody pays me for this. I just felt like I was a kid in a candy store. Like, how did I get this job? But back then we weren't smart enough to realize that people actually wanted to hear their TV output, their favorite movies, and even just listening to the nightly news, through that little tiny TV speaker. Well, all of a sudden, that marriage, that convenience of being able to have all your audio sources, the audio and video sources, also coming through the same system in your home. What a leap forward that was for our little industry. And this to me is a leap forward that's as big. You can now have the convenience that guys like me were telling you 25 years ago, no, you don't want that. It won't sound good.
Mhm.
You can have all that convenience along with the great, really high resolution audio. And, just what a fantastic thing. I'm so excited, David, having you on, both because you're my buddy and I was looking forward to hanging out with you for an hour, but also because the message that you bring is, just such a wonderful one. You don't have to settle for lesser resolution quality with one of the other services, if you join the Qobuz world.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you guys being there. I love your company. I always have. It's been one of my favorites for many, many years. And so, wishing you guys a lot of luck this holiday season. And hey,
It,
send
it's
me some playlists.
it's been a good one so far. That playlist will be in your inbox within 24 hours. I just got to hear from the rest of the guys that I've because I wanted to include everybody at who is selling the Gramophone in this, and I think I'm even going to expand it a little bit more widely now and see if some of the other folks who aren't in sales. But we're going to bring up the QR code in a minute so that you can qualify for the free giveaway for a year's worth of Qobuz at no charge. But I just wanted to quickly comment. Paul, who apparently is over in England, I think. Yeah, Paul says he's in the UK near London, and now he's saying I hear stuff that I would not have heard before because I'm on Qobuz. So that that joining a community, if you will, aspect to it is really pretty cool. Um, so if yeah, go ahead, Charlie and Hazen, if you can bring up the QR code so that people can. Let me get my private chat out of the way so I can see it too. So if you want to enter our giveaway, and this is one of my absolute favorite parts about doing Gramophone Live is who doesn't like to get stuff for free? If you want to enter our giveaway, we've both got a link up there now on the screen, or if you'd rather do the QR code, whichever is easier for you. And roughly a month from now, we'll pick the winner. And David, thank you so much for participating in that part of this little exercise because it really does help us to get more people onto the broadcast when there's a possibility of a free giveaway. So So that's pretty cool. Looks like people are already scanning the QR code, so that's a good thing. And Paul is saying my local town is the home of Name Audio. We sell Focal powered by Name here at Gramophone, and that's cool that you're right near where they make it. One
That's great stuff.
Yeah. One thing I want to share too, David, with our audience, because they probably don't know this about you, is that you love music enough that you've been drumming for practically your whole life, and you continue to. When you and I spoke yesterday, you said, "Oh yeah, I try to get in an hour or two every night if I can," and that fires me up because drums are my favorite. That's what I want to do. Some one of these days, I'm actually going to retire. Not anytime real soon, I don't think, but when I do, I want to take up the drums.
Yeah, you have to pick the right wife. I got to tell you, she has been, I don't know how she does it. We were talking about, everybody's talking about carbon footprints these days.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my SPL footprint is like, I'm the worst. I would be like, Mark Zuckerberg or something with my SPL. It's like I make more SPL than 10 people put together. So you have to choose the right partner to put up with that.
Yes, Rugby, you're right. That is a drum kit in the background. And then Kay says David was the drum tech for the Commodores. I remastered the catalog for high resolution. Is that true? You drum tech for the Commodores?
For about 6 months. It was a lot of fun. I was just the replacement, but it was an absolute blast and fell in love with those guys. I actually turned them on to Deja Vu.
Okay.
Lionel Richie walked on the bus, and I had the cassette in, and it was on in the middle of one of the harmony parts, and he's going, "Oh my God, who is that?" And I'm going, "Well, that's Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young." And he goes, "Can I borrow that CD?" Or can I? And there was no CDs. "Can I borrow that cassette?" I'm
Tape.
going, "Yeah, sure." A couple days later, he brings it back. He goes, "Hey man, that was some cool stuff. Thanks a lot." They were all great guys. We had such a good time.
Well,
I said we. It was just.
well, the closest story I have to that in terms of rock and roll is there I was in 1984, and this was in a little bar in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I was working at that time, selling audio. I was actually managing for the Federated Group at that time. And Los Lobos was on stage. So I was a fan. This was right before they broke it big, and they were playing little bars, like this little bar that I was in. And a woman who was kind of drunk walked up to them, and they're playing, and she's got a platter of shots. And the guitar player's kind of looking at her like, what do you want me to do? I can't, we're in the middle of a song here. So eventually she just put it down, but I was sitting on the edge of the stage. So as soon as they finished the song, I just stood up, grabbed the platter, and I served the guys in Los Lobos shots that somebody else had paid for. So that's my closest to your 6 months of working with the Commodores. David, as we're starting to wrap this up, and one more quick comment here, Paul is from England is commenting a great new album, Stephen Wilson's newest album. So thank you, Paul, and thank you for everybody who's joined in with all the comments and questions that you've done. But especially, David, mostly thanks to you because, not only for joining us here on Gramophone Live this evening, which has been great, and of course to all our audience members, you know that this is going to live on YouTube. Basically, as soon as we conclude here in a few moments, this will just transfer to YouTube. But thank you not only for being with us here this evening and talking with us about Qobuz and enjoying conveniently, live or high res music that really sounds fantastic. But thanks for all your years before you even got to Qobuz. Of, as you said when you first talked about realizing, hey, this is going to be huge as our ability to offer higher and higher resolution music goes up. The convenience factor is going to make it so cool for people to be able to enjoy their hobby. And
Yes.
and you've been doing that for literally decades now, even before it occurred to a guy like me that this was going to be big. You knew it. So thank you for pushing the envelope with your passion for music and your passion for high resolution music.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate the time.
Fantastic. And thanks then last to all of you folks out in Gramophone land for making this yet another fun to do, enjoyable Gramophone Live. This certainly has turned into, one of my favorite parts of this gig that I do here. And yeah, thank you. Thanks to all of you folks for joining us. If you haven't yet liked and subscribed to the Gramophone YouTube channel, please do that, because we really enjoy making fresh content about all the cool audio toys that we have to play with here. Of course, our cool audio toys, unless you have high resolution music to play it on, they're just sitting there looking at you. So I'm really glad, David, that we got Qobuz on here. That part's great. But yeah, if you don't mind, to all you folks who are on right now, just go ahead and like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so that you're notified of our upcoming content. We have 3 stores in Maryland, in Timonium and Columbia and Gaithersburg. But we have a store that can really serve a much, much wider audience, because we have Sky by Gramophone, where so many of our products, not all of our products, but so many, are available to be purchased on Sky. And with Sky, you always get, a secure checkout and then fast and free shipping straight to your door. So, David, we're going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts from you?
Hey, thanks a lot again, Joe. Have fun listening to music, and I think I'll share the playlist that I've been working on for the last 6 months, and then you
Okay.
can kind of share it with your audience.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. And I know there's going to be a lot of the kind of music I like on there, because you and I have pretty similar musical tastes. All right. Well, thanks again, David. It's been a fun hour, and we're signing off. To all you folks in Gramophone land, thanks once again for joining us.